Good afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of Making a Game. Where were we up to last episode? I actually can't remember. Probably should have checked before I started. We were practicing? We were programming, drawing something that doesn't change size, the screen size changes, which all works and gets us another step closer towards having something interactive. So I think that's all the drawing logic more or less in place for now. I'm sure we'll find more stuff to add, but we can do it now. Right? I want to put the thing on screen, I want it to stretch, it can do it. I want it to be a fixed size, we can do it. Now we want to start interacting with things. So obviously, it's not a game at this point, we're currently just drawing a picture. We're going to want both mouse controls for, I guess, like menus, but also the kind of tile editing interface that I'm imagining. Probably is most nicely driven with the mouse, and the game itself will be keyboard driven. So we're going to have to handle both of those eventually. And I think if I have a look in our README, I think this plan still makes a lot of sense to me. Which is to say, let's start out with a button. So imagine like a main menu with a start button. I want to click that and take you from menu mode to game mode and show something else on the screen. And then when you press a button, we take you back to the menu, and then we'll know how both of those systems work. I think we're going to start with the mouse controls. I've done a little bit of keyboard controls in GLFW back in that Brackies game, but the mouse stuff's all totally new to me. So I've had a quick Google. I found this, and I figured we start out with something that says like, when I hover this, I want to change the background color, and when I click it, I want to do something. So, that sounds like a plan. Let's go and have a look. Where actually is main.odin? There it is. Where is all this stuff gonna live? We have a bunch of our GLFW stuff all lives in main. Mine seems fine at the minute, I think. Alright, so we're doing this whole like init game. Somewhere we have something like draw game, there we go, and draw game, where we're doing all of this stuff at the minute. Alright, I'll tell you what I might do, is I might just add a draw game temporarily, which will do something similar. We'll draw a rect, grey, x equals whatever. Oh yeah, let's just do a background, isn't it? So we can just take that literally exactly as it is, and then we'll do string game, and we'll say drawString transmute to U8 string and stick it in the same position. So we're not fussed about this being messy because it's all temporary. Have boxed that up though. Something like that. And instead of panicking, say in here, draw game. Still unhappy. Parameter game of type game is missing procedure call. Declaration of draw game in this scope. Oh, that's annoying. Yeah, that name's already taken. That's silly. I don't know, draw game screen. And up here, draw game screen. We'll have to see how it goes today, 'cause actually, I was hoping to do this episode yesterday, but I managed to hurt my hand. So I couldn't really type yesterday. I'm going to see how it goes. It starts hurting. We are going to have to bail, but my left hand's still feeling just a little bit funny. So, expect me to be a bit slow and clumsy today. Right. So now we have a meaningful way to know which one of these we're drawing. It won't do anything visible at the minute because we init game to the other thing, but just to prove that works, if I come in here and I change that to game and I recompile, there we go. So we can now write something else. We obviously do not want that. We're in here. I think, so GLFW is very callback driven, right? You can see us setting up other callbacks. So I think we're probably going to have like a mouse callback that we maybe care about. Let's have a look. Mouse input comes in many forms, including mouse motion, button presses, and scrolling offsets. Cursor appearance can also be changed. You might want to do eventually, but not right away. Oh, no. Wish to be notified when the cursor moves over the window, set a cursor position callback. That fires only when it moves. Callback functions receives the cursor position measured in screen coordinates but relative to the top left corner of the window content area. Okay, so it's being done the same way as the Vulkan stuff was. On platforms that provide it, full subpixel cursor position is passed on. So cursor position callback. Or you can just call get cursor pos. So I think we do this. Right? We try to wrap that instead of having in outs, and life is easy, no? Function returns the position of the cursor in screen coordinates relative to the upper left corner of the content area of the specified window. So I think we just write a function that has two return values. I guess it's going to give it to us. Going to tell us in pixels, or is it as a just pick like I'm saying this poorly? The Vulkan coordinates are in units from -1 to 1. There's nothing to do with actual pixel values. I don't know if this is going to be in pixel values or not. Let's go and print this first, I guess. Probably easiest thing to do is stick it, I don't know, like in here somewhere. GLFW get cursor position. X and Y can both be ints. And user just take. Ah, okay, nice. They've already wrapped it into a thing with multiple returns. Excellent. We just pass in the window handle. They will go and get them, and they're not ints, they're floats, which makes sense. So can we say in here, cursor X, cursor Y are equal to GC window. So let's just print them. So format line, cursor X, cursor Y. What do you do? Seems interesting. It doesn't seem to do it, so it doesn't matter if I'm not even over like my game window. That's interesting. It is relative to this point here. Interesting. And it looks like we don't get sub-pixel precision, but I guess other operating systems might. Cool. So if we grab that and drag it to the smallest that we allow, what did I set that to? To 640. So yeah, you can see right on that cusp there is at 640. And then it can go bigger. Interesting. Okay. What do we do with that then? We stick them just in global context. Our main loop updates the global context each frame. Or do I stick it in game state? So then it's draw game that cares about it. sip of my drink. What other things do we have on game? Yeah, because this is the thing. I'm imagining game as being like. Oh, yeah, it seems stupid to say the game, right? It's the game of Tetris and what tiles it's using and what your score is and all that sort of thing. Input feels quite distinct from that. But it's going to be needed in order to do the drawing. Making it just a global seems a bit nasty. Well, that said, that is what we're doing with a bunch of this stuff. So we can make it global and then pull it into something else later if we need to. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here already about our surface, isn't there? Okay, I think I'm going to do that for now. So I'm going to say in here, cursor, pos. Pos, pretty sure this is floats. Yep. Then, where did we just do that? Create window. Probably don't care, initialize things. Where do we just put all that in here? Instead of making it these two, we can just do global context, cursor pos dot x global context, so pos dot y is equal to this. Freaks out, or because it doesn't like. I cast them both at once, like this. Expected close bracket, like a tuple type like that. No? These are silly errors, right? These are just naming. How do I tell you? I honestly thought that would work. Do Odin language reference. It's gonna be called pair. It's gonna be called tuple. Tuple, multiple returns, multiple results. Results named arguments, default values. This all seems not quite what I had in mind. Annoying. Alright, instead of fanning with that so much, I might just write my own wrapper and have it give me F32. That's going to blow up. I'm going to assign the value of F64 to F32. Okay, let's go have a look then. We have other ones that already exist. So we've got VK. Can we also just do... Oh, I can't call it GLFW because I'm already using GLFW. Bugger. Annoying. Alright, let's just stick it in here. Update cursor pos set global, so I remember. The procedure, it takes nothing, everything's global. Turns nothing, it just sets the values. It's going to go X and Y are both going to be results from GLFW get cursor pos from our global window, and then gc dot cursor pos is equal to x equals cast to f32x and y equals cast to f32y. Go ahead and do that. Here, update global cursor pos. Bang bang, off it goes. Beautiful. And if we drop that to the bottom, we can see it is updating. Goes negative, we go to the bottom there. Cool. Happy with that. So we've now got information about where the cursor actually is. I guess the next thing to say is, can we update our drawing to change colours? I guess only the background colour, because that's easy to do because it's drawing a rect. I guess in future we might have to like swap out what texture coordinates we're using if we want to do something more complicated than a block colour. But for now we can do a block colour. So let's see if we go to draw, ball. Right. Do we just do a check in here? So let's see, if we say in here then something like button dim, it'd be dimensions, width is 100 and height is 120, and then we'll have something like string dim, width is less, maybe not that much less, like 70. What we would like to say in here is we want to go ahead and draw rect. Let's make it red. Oh, I don't know. What position do you want to be at? It's useful to go through a sort of hand-coded example to see how it all fits together quickly. Say x is 100, y is 100. Our string pos will be, I guess, displaced slightly from that. So pos x equals 115, y equals 110. Then you, sir, are going to say draw a rectangle. It's going to be red. It's going to be at button pos. It's going to have dimensions button dim. And it's going to be at 0.1, so it sits in front of the background rectangle but behind our string. And then we can simplify all of this a little bit with string pos and string dim. So we draw that, and we can see we've now got a red button. Probably want to make it a bit wider. Go ahead and say string pos, string dim. Make that 100. It's 120 maybe? There we go, that looks a little bit more readable. And what I want to do is I want to say, if I mouse over that, change the color to blue. So let's see. Probably the thing to do is to say something in here like button. Say button hovered. And how do you do checks? I guess it's just rectangle checks. So this shouldn't be hard, right? So we have a global context. So a rectangle can be defined by a position and a dimension. So maybe actually there's something I need to say like rect overlap turns a Boolean like a P1 pos D1 dim 2 pos D2 dim. So we have our rectangle. How do you tell if the two rectangles overlap? Oh my god, I'm so sure I've programmed this. It's complaining it doesn't know what dim is. Seems hard to believe. Dim uses type. There is a type. That just returns false. That should just work. Because of that. Nope. Dim uses a type when it is not a type. That dim is the problem. There we go. Right. And then let's say I don't know, red if rect overlap if button hovered. If button hovered, else blue, and we define a button hovered to be equal to rect overlap between button pos, button dim, and our mouse. Is it easier because it's just a point? You know what? We're going to rename that. No code actions. Can I not refactor? Yes. They say rect hovered. We're going to have pos. We're going to have dim. And we're going to have cursor pos. Christ, I'm struggling with this. Go pos. There we go. And then this can just take that global cursor pos. Right. So rect hovered if. Can I remember how you do this? I feel like what I normally see people say to do is to the cases where it's not hovered are trivial, and if they're all not true, then you can say that it is hovered. So what is there to say? I think we just do it and then try it, and if it works, it works. But rect hovered. So if cursor pos x is greater e dot x plus d dot width, or cursor pos dot x is less than p dot x, then you return false. Similarly, if cursor pos y is greater than p dot y plus d dot h, or cursor pos dot y is less than p dot y. And I think I can already feel a problem with this. I think our coordinate systems aren't the same. Else we return true. Alright, this is kind of saying that our x is between the two values and the y is between the two values, then it's true. Go and try that. I physically can't get it to hover. Okay, nice. I'm pretty sure I know a reason why it's not going to work as expected, but I did think something somewhere was going to make it turn red. I'll tell you what I'll do. Let's go ahead and kill that. Let's also get rid of that print line, wherever that is. It's probably in main, was it? Print line here, so we don't want that anymore. I think we probably need to refactor out something called a rect move logic somewhere else to keep it tidy. Why is this not working? Rect hovered. Can we say in here format print line say true or false, and our global context cursor position. Not define format. I should get in the habit of just defining format everywhere. You can see it's false. You know what value should make it true though? So can we go and look for what values it should be true for? Where are we looking? 100. We'll find 100, 100. There we go. Okay, so it is working. Maybe now the problem is more obvious. Is GLFW is using sort of top to bottom x y coordinates, and we've flipped that. I still think mine makes it easier to reason about, but it means we're going to have to revert that everywhere that we have GLFW coordinates given to us. So let's kill this. Back to main. And I think we just do that inside of here. Update global cursor pos. We would like to do here, I think, global context surface extent. Sorry, the X's are fine. We would like to say this one is global context surface extent dot height minus y. Wrong. Oh, because you're also not a float. So let's make you a float. Recompile. And we get a button that hovers. Beautiful. We can see in here true and false. True and false. Interesting, actually, there's like a visible delay. I assume must be to do with like the terminal output rather than the program, because the program is very responsive, right? Right. That's pretty exciting though. So that works as expected. How do you handle clicks? So I assume there'll be some sort of like an event we have to listen for. They just treat it like a key? Keyboard input. Text input, mouse input, cursor position, cursor mode. We don't want cursor disabled. Or hidden. Cursor object we might do later. Cursor can be set as current for a window. Set it will use that image. Cursor enters or leaves. Oh, fun. There we go. Mouse button input. If you wish to be notified when a mouse button is pressed or released, set a mouse button callback. Callback function receives the mouse button and modifiers. Oh. Well, so you can like control click or shift click. Yeah, mod shift, mod control. Okay, cool. So I don't think we need any of that. We just care if you click, do a thing. Callback function receives the mouse button and modifier bits. Action is one of press or release. Last reported state for every supported mouse button is also saved in per Windows state arrays. It can be polled. Left W get mouse button. Oh, interesting. The function only returns cached mouse button event state. It does not poll the system for the current state of the mouse. Whenever you poll, you risk missing the state change you're looking for. If a pressed mouse button is released again before you poll its state, you'll have missed the button pressed. The recommended solution to this is to use a mouse button callback. There's also sticky mode. When sticky mouse buttons mode is enabled, pollable state will remain pressed until the state of that button is polled. LFW.get mouse button. How interesting. Okay. I don't think this is necessarily what we want to be using, but I'm curious about it. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to quickly hack in using their cached state to say what am I trying to say? We go back into here. In the same way we've got here button hovered. I think it's saying. Ah, no, because it's in the other thing. Left W get mouse button. Okay, so when we call this GLFW get mouse button, which we are doing, side of here, I think. Ah, no, we're calling get cursor pods. There's a different get mouse button. And that saves the last updated value for each of the buttons that it could be. So we can call GLFW get mouse button for mouse button left. If it's pressed, do a thing. So you could do something in here like draw rectangle. Not got GLFW yet, have we? Let's go pop. Import vendor GLFW. Back to here. Get mouse button. Our global context window. And W dot left. Not called left mouse button. Called mouse button left. Mouse button. Let's see it in there. Mouse button left. Call that mouse button is equal to that. Didn't mean to get that one. I meant to grab the other one. We can say in here if mouse button interesting. You're an int. Not an enum. So is equal to GLFW pressed. And button is hovered. Then let's print line clicked. Okay, yeah. So it's clicking a whole bunch of times because our frame rate is currently ludicrous, like through the roof fast. So I guess in the time it takes between me pushing the button down and lifting it back up, it's firing, what was that, several hundred times. We can test its stats. So that's currently at 480. I'm going to click it for like a second. Ping to the bottom. Yeah, you can see you get just a huge number. So that's not really practical, but shows that it's working. I don't think that's actually how we want to do this. I think we're going to want to do all of this. Callback stuff in here. Right, so, oops, didn't mean to close that. Oh no, lost it. LFW mouse input. Jump down to you down here. This is what we're going to want to do. But it is revealing, I think. We're going to have to do a bit of reworking. The thing that's nice with this is we can just do it in place. Whereas, if we're registering this callback, where are we doing it? We're doing it back in here. Maybe this isn't even a bad thing to do. Just to say, got our main loop, polling events. We update our global cursor position. Inside of this bit, I guess this is kind of what I'm talking about, right? Is in here, I want to really have the daft thought. I guess in my head, what we were going to have was kind of like system interactions for the frame will get captured into here. Then, once that's done, say in here, update game state for those interactions. And then draw the frame, right? And it's nice that they happen in this kind of controlled way. So I guess the thing, and maybe this is me worrying about nothing, is I'm kind of thinking like if I'm in here and we just register these callbacks to say, hey, every time you click, you do some update. Presume that's happening on some other thread. I have no idea how it's doing that. Right, so we give it a callback. I'm assuming then there's another thread running the GLFW like event processing. This even says processing normally done after each frame, after buffer swapping, even when you have no windows, yada 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 yada. Wait events timers. There's nothing in here about how they implement it, is there? No. I'm guessing what they must have is another thread that is, I don't know, using operating system calls to say like, hey, what buttons have been pressed, and putting them into a buffer somewhere, and then calling our callback on them in turn. Which means that it can currently be happening kind of interleaved with our code. I don't know, it feels squirrely to me that if I have a bunch of logic in here setting up my drawing state, that maybe I draw a thing, like I do one piece of the drawing, then the next interaction gets processed before I do the next piece of drawing, and I end up drawing a frame that makes no sense. So I wonder if what we're going to want to do is in here, something like flush our event queue. And we're going to want to register callbacks that populate this event queue. Let me just grab the names before I close this again. Like that one. There'll be one up here for... Just do a search down here for callback. A key input. Maybe I am worrying about nothing, because this poll events presumably does what I'm talking about. Where's poll events? In here. Poll events. This function processes only those events that are already in the event queue and then returns immediately. Processing events will cause the window and input callbacks associated with those events to be called. On some events, these things will cause event processing to block. This is due to how event processing is designed on those platforms. Use the window refresh callback to redraw the contents of your window when necessary during such operations. Do not assume that callbacks you set will only be called in response to event processing functions like this one. Necessary to poll for events. Window systems that require GLFW to register callbacks of its own can pass events to GLFW in response to many window system function calls. GLFW will pass those events onto the application callbacks before returning. What is that saying? What is that saying? Do not assume that callbacks you set will only be called in response to event processing functions like this one. It is necessary to poll for events, Windows systems that require GLFW to register callbacks of its own and pass events to GLFW in response to many Windows system function calls. Ugh, that is nice and vague. I don't really want to go read their source code because I've got a feeling it's going to be a slightly painful area of their source code. This is just back to the same guide we were looking at. Oy, okay. Well, I suppose if you're an experienced GLFW user out there watching this, you can tell me if I'm worrying about nothing. I went from worried to not worried to worried again. I assumed that poll events was going to be doing what we're saying, which is I guess on their separate thread, they're writing into a buffer, and then you'd call poll events, and we'd flush the buffer, handling each event with the register callback. That little bit about, but these callbacks might be fired in other places as well. All sounds a bit squirrely, doesn't it? So I think I might still write my own bit of wrapping code around it all. I'm getting froggy. Where's the drink? Yeah, I think I might go back and write some wrapping code around it. So GLFW poll events will be called to kind of prompt the system interactions, but my callbacks will just say populate a queue that we keep, the kind of like system, I don't know, like a buffer that we keep of events that need flushing. And then we will flush events in here. And at least we then know where our updates are happening. Then we can do draw frame. Okay. The other thing that comes to mind, so I guess like our flushing that event queue will call some update game state function for each. What am I saying? For each event that it's processing, so that they get processed in order. How do I want to handle that hovering and clicking? Like I say, currently what we've got is in here, we're just calling get mouse button. What we're going to have instead is something that says get mouse button, or a get mouse button callback fires in that known place. I guess maybe our state needs to say on it. Yeah, I think our state in here might have to become like a union. Alright, and then we'll have something like main menu state. And then for each button, we'll have something like button 1 hovered, button 1 pressed. As a bool? Oh my god, I'm stuck at this. Right, because we now need to be able to we need to update some piece of state so that our drawing function can know that the thing is hovered and it wants to draw something different. I think we might stick a to-do in here. I think I've got a nice... Is it that? Wasn't that? It was very much not that. I do this? Yeah. Stick a to-do in to say... What? I think we want to make this... tagged union... have separate state structs. Main menu... game, etc. Now, I think this thought has occurred to me before, and I didn't like it because I was saying, what if I want to be able to go to the menu and then go back into an in-progress game? I think the thing to say to that is probably make the game state serializable, and if you want to be able to do that, we dump it somewhere and then reload it. So I think it's not worth worrying about at this point. But I think this makes the whole thing a bit more sane. Oh. I guess trying to think if there's another way to cut this up. Is it worth revisiting the idea of having like an entity? Right, so I think before what I've said is I've got my buffer of graphics primitives that I'm going to send to the graphics card. This is generated from a buffer of drawables, which are kind of a slightly higher level object that sit in a coordinate system I control. That describes everything we're drawing to the screen. Could have another buffer of entities. So as I load up the main menu, I put my main menu buttons as entities on, I guess, on this buffer. And each of them just has a bit of state. That doesn't feel any different to having a big game state, though, right? I don't need like a dynamic number of entities, at least not at this point. Even when we get into the game, our game's going to be quite constrained, right? So I can know what you're going to do. You're going to spawn in a new piece with each turn. Once the piece lands, all I need to know is which cells are which colours. And we can solve that by just assigning like an ID to each piece and keeping like a grid. So yeah, I think even there, yeah, I don't think the entities thing makes sense. We can do this all quite statically. Okay. So there's a bunch of things to think about there. I'm going to go and write up a quick couple of to-dos in my README, because I'll be honest, my hand is starting to feel uncomfortable. And then we'll see. Maybe I'll come back in like half an hour and try to get some more done. So this is still our plan. I put like a short-term plan in here. So what was I saying? I want a queue. Let me have like an event buffer. Event buffer, which is populated using glfw callbacks. A flush event buffer, which updates game state. And then I think refactor game state to tagged union with separate menu game state. game state. Okay, let's aim for something like that. I'm going to go take a bit of a break, let my hand rest a bit. Alright, catch you in a minute. Okay, and I am back. Just looking at this plan, I don't think this is too unreasonable to get done, at least pretty quickly. Hand allowing, because I think hand injuries worry me. Perhaps disproportionately, but I used to do jiu-jitsu. Like, I remember a lot of the guys who were there were all, like electricians and plumbers. They were all used to wear knee pads. I remember talking to them because I was a lot younger at that point. I was like, why? They were like, you've got to protect your knees, right? Because in our industry, if you can't spend a day on your knees doing whatever it is that they were doing, you just can't work, right? And that's too important. I feel like, really, we don't talk about it much, but kind of your hands and your fingers are kind of the same if you work in programming. So I'll be really annoyed if I get some sort of terrible hand injury. So I have an ergonomic keyboard, and I make an effort to keep like my ergonomics good at my desk and take breaks and all that sort of thing. But it's I have no idea what I've done to my hand, so I'm hoping it just kind of settles. So unless I get a bit of a flare up, let's aim to get a good chunk of this done. Let me just remind myself what it is that we're doing. So we're not doing the entities thing. I think that the game is static enough that we can just have a game state that we update and then a draw game state function that would probably be pretty big and gnarly, but let's go with that. I do think the event buffer idea is a good idea. Now, one question would be... How do we want to handle clicks? Right, so we can get the mouse position at any time. We've already got that. Just happening once. Where's my stuff? Go back to main. So actually, I don't think this is a terrible thing to have. Is anything else going to have a pause where we care about doing this repeated? I don't think so. So, I guess, should we just make a fixed size buffer and have a maximum value and only write so many things? My God, look at all this global state. I tell you, if I wrote code like this at work, I would immediately be in trouble. What are we going to call it? Event buffer size 1,000. Let's do 1,000. I can't imagine we'll have more than 1,000 events. 100 probably do us, to be fair, but let's go ahead and do that. And we'll have event buffer, which will be... What will it be? It'll be event buffer size. Am I doing this wrong? I am doing it wrong. So we're going to have to come up with some sort of type to go in there, and then event buffer size. Go in here. And we will need to define our event. Now, do we have a natural, obvious place to put these things? Probably not yet, do we? I'm going to bung it all in main and worry about refactoring a bit. So let's have a struct event. I guess we'll have a type event type. So, do I want a separate event? So, if you press the left button or the right button, are those keyboard events with some data on them to say what button was pressed, or do I want to have a left keyboard pressed event and a right keyboard pressed event? I think probably a tagged union makes sense. Hmm. So what would you have? You'd have something like foo is a union keyboard or mouse. That will have a keyboard event. And this will be a mouse event. It's all getting a bit gross, isn't it? It's not how you do a union. Or is it just that this isn't the right place? So if we make that a foo up in here, is this complaining that that doesn't exist? Expected bracket. Excuse me. Have another look. Odin Lang. One day I'll remember this. Union. Union types. There we go. Unions. Discriminated union, also known as tag union, or some type. The zero value is nil. Okay, so you just put in different strings. The v is a value. Type assert with an explicit Boolean check. Or you can switch on it. Okay. You don't have to name them, they'll just be named what their types are, I guess. So let's go ahead and do that and that. And then we're going to have keyboard event, mouse event. Oh, that's a point. So we've got our current mouse position, which we will need for knowing where you clicked. Is there a risk in using that with the click events, though? So I expect to be clearing this every frame. I expect frames to be whizzing by at 60 frames per second or better, which means you've got 16 milliseconds. So I think that shouldn't be perceivable to your eye. Realizing now I'm going to need another thing in here, event type, which will be an enum. This is starting to all feel big enough to warrant going somewhere else already. So let's go ahead and clear it out here. Let's make a event.odin. Plug it all in there. Why are you angry about event? Because it needs to say package main. There we go. And main in here should hopefully work fine. Restart the server. Finds it. Excellent. So, got our event buffer. Mad to even say, you know what? Let's put them in our event file as well. So easy to move things around. It's not a problem, is it? Yeah, so just umming and ahhing now. So like a keyboard event, I'm assuming what I'm going to end up doing is have like a pressed, released, what else? Pressed, released, and like a character, right? So that I can then have something that says, and if the character of that keyboard event is left, we move the thing to the left. Whereas mouse event, I think we just have left press, left release, but they're going to need to have positions associated with them so that they can know which button they're interacting with. I think that's simpler than just having them be press and release. So if you're doing something like you're wiping your cursor left to right and you click and release, God knows. I think that's useful information to keep all like contained inside of something. So I think we'll have something in here that is like mouse event at a position, which will be a pos. Right. I guess this could have to be keyboard and mouse. Right. And if you make a keyboard event, so it currently have nothing, a mouse event will take in a position and... Oh, is type a terrible word to use again? Alright, because I want press and release. Maybe we do event source, keyboard and mouse. And then we have event type will be press and release. Like that. Do I not have the trailing commas? Legal declaration cycle. Hang on. Whoops, getting told off. What was I doing? In here, let's try and understand what happened to this, and I think it might just be, yeah, language server hard. Okay. So we'll have events, which will have a source, we'll have data on it. That data will be either keyboard or mouse. I guess this might take a character code and a type. My god, this is all getting a bit convoluted, isn't it? So I guess this wants to know left and right as well. So event type on here instead of event. Like so. And yeah, I think this is going to want to know left and right. So let me go mouse button. Enum with left and right. So button, mouse button. So we have something like that. And we want something to say we want a count that just tracks how many are in it currently. That seems relatively not mad. Kill that main.odin before I accidentally write it. Okay. So, what do we want to do? We want to now say we're going to set a bunch of callbacks. Where are we looking? We're in here. Keyboard input. We have a set key callback I think we care about, and then somewhere down here we have a mouse button input, set mouse button callback. So we're going to set both of these, just populate that. What's it? That all seems reasonable, doesn't it? I guess let's start with this thing. Oh, why do you return something? Type def void pointer glfw mouse button fun function pointer type for mouse button callback functions and mouse button callback function has the following signature. Void function, all of this stuff. Window button action odds. What does it return? The previously set callback, or null if no callback was set, or the library had not been initialized. Got you. That's interesting. I wonder why it does that. Presumably there's a reason that's useful. Don't know. Very strange. Right. Let's go ahead and say then, it's not, it's set mouse button callback. We'll have mouse button callback will be a C style procedure that takes a window. We do want that. It's this callback in here we're defining. It takes a window. Int button. Int action, int mods. Function pointer type for mouse button callback functions. The in parameters. Is it just writing in out values? Means it might all be being handled internally. No, because I'm not going to be using that, am I? Alright, let's go start with the thing we want to call. We want to call this glfw set thing. So, where's the rest of our glfw stuff? Creates a window. Init. Yeah, stick it in here. So it's going to be setup input handling. We want to call this, which hopefully exists. Mouse button proc, which yeah, takes all the things. Damn it, so we need to care about it all. Okay, so glfw set mouse button callback to. User take a window handle, so we use our window. And you take a callback. Is there anything else? Which, oh, I just wrote it. What are you called? Something callback. Mouse button callback. Which is going to complain because it's not got the right. Cannot assign mouse button callback a type to a procedure argument. How do I set my other callbacks? Pass it in. Window size callback. Oh, is it because I've not got a body on it yet? Now it's going to complain about the types, is it? So, I kind of hate it has to have all these in-outs. How do I want to handle that then? Not really sure. Oh, I can't get back to that glfw thing easily. Annoying. Okay. I remember I had to take stuff in. Go and have a quick jump back. Say I want these types. In nya. I think it's safe to make those I32s. Your GLFW window handle. So now it doesn't complain, it just doesn't do anything. That has to be that shape. I guess one thing to say is we just make them global again. And maybe we end up with something in our global context that's like GLFW globals. I assume actually we're going to have more in-outs if we look at the set key callback, which has this thing. The pointer to window, int key, int scan code. Why am I just being stupid? No, I think I'm being stupid. Yeah, they're not in-out. They're just in. It's just it telling it what? Oh my god, I'm an idiot. Okay, so it's not an in-out. I don't need some global state. It's the function that they're going to call, and they're going to call it to say, hey, it's the left mouse button that got pressed, or hey, it's the right mouse button that got pressed. So we're essentially just going to have to say in here, event buffer at event buffer count will be equal to some event, and event buffer count plus equal 1. Right? And then we need to decide what that event looks like. Event type will be equal to a mouse event. Data will be equal to a mouse event, which will have some stuff in it that I can't remember off the top of my head, so we'll go grab them. And why won't you reformat? Your position. I don't suppose this has the position on it. Button action mods. No. Set mouse button callback, mouse button input. Since this thing, window handle, type def void, cursor pos fun, function pointer type for cursor position callbacks. So actually maybe that's what we do. We set the cursor position function so this fires more frequently. And then this will use that. And we remember how our own code worked to do something like this. Event type. We're going to do event type action equal glfw dot press if that else. That work? No. Why no? Undeclared name, press for event type. Is it though? I can see it right there. Ah, I'm an idiot because I've not done them capitalized. So if I make that press and I make that release. Nice. And then mouse button isn't a thing. And make dot left. If button equals glfw dot mouse left dot right. I think they only have press and release, but they do have other mouse buttons, in which case we might actually need to support more than just left and right, right? You know what we're going to do? We're going to say, oops, wrong one. We're going to only support lefts. We're going to have this say if button not equal to dot mouse left. Does that not work? Dot glfw mouse left. Then just return. Just do nothing else. No left button. Because I don't want to get into like right click for little menus to pop up or anything like that. You click left, we click the thing, else we don't care. We do need to care about presses and releases. Cool, that looks reasonable to me. It does rely on this, which I'm not sure I like. Let's come up in here and say mouse pos callback. And we'll do something similar. I'm pretty sure it takes a window, glfw window handle. And we're going to replace our manually doing it in our event loop with this function. Where's the name? Type def void cursor pos fun. Double x pos, double y pos. What's a double? Is a double an F64? So it's going to be x pos, y pos, F64. Returns nothing. And we're going to go ahead and say global thing pos is equal to x is cast to F32 x pos. Right, and y is equal to cast to F32 y pos, like so. We're going to bin all of that code. We're going to come up here because that'll break something. In fact, I'm pretty sure I can do it like that. No, like that. No, okay. I'm bad at this thing. Got one more line, Matt. Right, so instead of doing it explicitly in there, we're going to update this thing as fast as glfw does it. And it'll always be up to date as possible then when we write the mouse events. Am I not using my mouse? Yeah, set up input handling. Okay, strictly, I'd like to put this one before. So set cursor pos callback. Mouse pos callback. Like so. Alright, should we just try that then? Because that should now be writing our values. So if I now come in here, I should be able to do something like if event buffer count is greater than 0, for, I don't know, event in event buffer up to event buffer count, format print line. So we do an index just so we can see how many there are each time. get to the end, and we go event buffer count back to 0. As long as we don't overflow, that works. We expect that to only pick up left press and releases. So let's go and run you. So we're looking, we notice our button does nothing anymore. Oh, okay, I'll tell a lie. It's still grabbing that. We've not inverted our thing, okay. But we are picking up, these numbers are wrong, but we get a press, we get a release, they're both left. They're happening in different, like event loops. We would like in here, though, to say gc.cursorPos is not just ypos cast to F32, it's also surface extent dot height cast to a float. We're in here, you can see our position makes sense now. Our button's still dumb. I wish I hadn't clicked the button now. And we can see that the values are able to be different. And Y is increasing from bottom to top. So the position's mapping onto our drawables as expected. Cool. That feels pretty nice. And I suppose we might as well come in here and also do set key callback. What do you take? Window and a function. So window and this key callback, which will be similar to these. We'll have ourselves key callback proc C, taking a window handle, but it's going to take a bunch of other stuff as well, isn't it? So let's go and have a look. Where's our key thing gone? Use for keyboard callbacks takes a key, a scan code, an action, and modifiers. Key is the keyboard key pressed or released, the system-specific scan code of the key. So I don't like the sound system-specific. I assume we want this. And we're just going to ignore modifiers. To up the USD HID usage tables. Oh, okay. Interesting. Don't suppose these map nicely to just ASCII values, do they? Let's have a look. So, what's the ASCII value 65? It is A. I guess left and right are not going to have reasonable ASCII values, are they? Yeah, key left 263. What is 263 in ASCII? Outside the range, which covers these values in extended ASCII. Yada yada yada. Commonly C acute. Okay. Okay. What do they use for? 0. Key 0 is 48. If we're up in here, 48 is a number. Okay, so we could have something that says, like, if you've pressed a key and it's between 0 and 9, or it's between A and Z, we just write its value. For our key press. You're going to want to support things like space as well. Maybe key is the wrong. What do I do on my event types? Keyboard event, currently just taking a character. Are we going to end up with like a big, chunky enum instead? I think we might. Alright, let's have our keys be an enum. And for now, we're going to take left, we're going to take right, we're going to take up, we're going to take down. We're going to take space. And I guess we'll take ASDF. So A, S, D, and F, just for having a subset that we care about. Do you know what, I might even leave them off, because I don't think they add anything interesting. Go ahead and say your keys. What do we do with that information? Back in here, we have our key callback. Should have copy pasted it. What's it for? What do you take? These. You lot. I think are all I-32s. Makes things a little bit simpler. Key, scan code, action, and mods. Action we care about. Action is press, release, or repeat. That's interesting. What do we do with repeat? Do we treat repeat as just another press? Anything about GLFW repeat? Just the fact it exists. What is this? Get key. Action repeat is only reported on the key callback. Key was held down until it repeated. That's quite nice, because I thought we were going to have to implement that ourselves and just say, like, if we know it's pressed and it's not been released yet, keep pressing it, essentially. But we might be able to just say, if there's a repeat call, we get another press. Okay, so key callback takes all that information. What do? We go ahead and say then, if right, we're going to do something in the end, like event buffer at event buffer count is equal to some event type equal to key board data equal to a key board event, which will have some fields in it that this can't grab for some reason. Grab them ourselves. It refuses to format for some strange reason. Let's fix both of them. Key, we don't know yet. I might write a little helper for this. A key will be get key from glfw key code. That'll take that through there. So we're going to go ahead and say key code is an I32, returns key. In this case, I'm going to have it just always return a space. Why? What's your problem? You don't know that you're a procedure. I've done this wrong. You, sir, are proc, all that stuff, which is super angry for some reason. When did I get so bad at programming? Get key from this proc key code. Ah, there we go. Stupid little arrow. Are you going to say you can't be called because you're not C? Yeah, okay, so let's make that a C context as well, because that's one of those things that I think it's different between Odin and Zig. Odin, I think from looking at John Blow's streams, I think Jai works this way as well. I guess they would call this being pragmatic versus being explicit. They hand around this this implicit context between all Odin functions, so everything's got this kind of hidden context variable being passed into it, which you can use for things like a memory allocator, because you almost always want just the normal memory allocator. Or you always want to use your one that you've implemented, right? So there was kind of a ergonomic decision made there. Am I not going to be able to do a... It's annoying. Does that mean I can't do a double return here? So making it a proxy just means that context now doesn't exist, so it doesn't matter. If I make you double return, I think it now blows up. I do that. I can do that. That's pretty neat. So we have key and okay, and then we can say if not okay, early return. So similarly, we're only going to handle certain key events. If they're not handled, bail early, so we don't accidentally increment buffer count when we don't want to. Excellent. Why is this angry though? Because I don't want to do that. I want to do space and true. And you, sir, are a type. I think I can grab off this, right? Where was it? I think it's that same chunk. Let's come in there. It's a press if it's a press, else it's a release. It's not quite the same as X. If action is this, or action is glefw dot repeat. That makes sense, right? A repeat, we just want to treat like you keep pressing the button. I think. The simplicity. Are we going to have anything that is like you hold and let go and it happens? But in that case, I think we would just be setting like a hover color or something, so I think it still holds. We do that for now. Right, so currently we're just going to treat all key presses like they're spaces, and we should still be printing things. Go and run this. So, clicks are still working, remembering that I need to tell this to scroll, and press release, press release, press, and the repeater press is on hold. Nice. That seems good. So that all feels fairly minimal. What we're going to have to do here then is, can I go grab my list of keys? Grab all this. Head back. Paste that all into there. Gonna make a big switch on key code. Oops, key code. Get all of these. Case, I think there's a default. We return null value and false. Case that. Oh, I've cocked this up. Case left. Return. Oh, I don't want to return though, do I? Is switch an expression? Can I do thing equals switch? I might even look this up on a video before. Type switch statement. Statement. Don't understand that. Yeah, switch statement. Another way to write a sequence of if-else statements. Switch is like the C or C++ one, only runs the selected case. Breaks are not needed. To get fall through, use fall through. Switch cases are evaluated top to bottom. Stops when a success happens. Foo does not get called if all of this. Switch statement without a condition is the same as switch true. Switch statement can be used. You can also use ranges. Yeah. Okay. So I think the thing to do is probably say left, we return left true. Like that. Getting that all of this also needs to be wrapped like that. Can we please say in here, how do I do it? Go here, go case, go to the end, put that in there, bang these all out, case that, return right true, return up true. Okay, these values are all wrong though. Right. Return down true. It's probably a neater way to do this. We'll worry about that later on when this gets big and unwieldy. You're returning nobody cares and false. That is not left. That is G left W. Left? No. What were the key values? Key left. G left W, key left. G left W, key left. You're probably G left W, key right. G left W, key up. G left W, key down. Want to bet this one is G left W, key space? Just do case. Like that. I think that should give us... That makes sense. So if I hit some other key, so I'm hitting Q, it does nothing. If I hit left and release, right and release, up and release, me please go and actually get bottom of the buffer. Down and release, up and release, space and release. And if I do up and hold, I get a bunch of presses and a release. Nice. And actually that holding behavior probably does. I mean, it makes sense. Although that pause, maybe actually we do want to ignore the held behavior. Right, so it's behaving like you want it to in a text buffer, right? Where if I hold a button down, at first it assumes that it's just part of that original click, and then it starts, you know, like holding, repeating the value. For a game, that seems probably not what you want, or at least not in such an uncontrolled way. So I actually think I want that. And this is then going to give us lots of releases, right? So if we just recompile that and I hold the button, yeah. Check this. I think we're just going to have to say in here if action is repeat, ignore it. Add some spaces. I quite like to be able to jump like by block like this and have it be like, I don't know, stuff that is related. So now I press and hold, does nothing until I release. That, I think, is the behavior we want And we will, if we need to know a thing is pressed, what we'll do instead is we'll have some state to say, hey, I've been pressed, I've not been released, it's been this many frames. You know, we might have like a ticker or something like that that's, you know, says like after X frames have elapsed, fire another press. But then at least we can make it controllable to try and make it feel nice to use. Alright, I might stick a quick little... Ooh, what's main.odin? Sir, what are you? I've accidentally written that thing. I thought I killed the buffer and that would have saved me, but apparently not. Let's write a little interim thing. And in fact, we can even take... So we're now populating that sensibly. Drawable main. Yeah, let's just go ahead and commit everything. We'll say work in progress, input handling. It's work in progress because somewhere in here we still need to add our flushing. We're kind of halfway towards doing here, right? So this is a bunch of types. Kind of wonder if it makes sense to have a thing in here that's called like flush. But do we gain anything? It's kind of just inlined in here, right? So for each of these, it's like do the thing. Basically what we want to say is we expect those to update game. So now it's going to need that index. Go ahead and call it like game handle event. I think you're just going to take a reference to game. And an event. Right. So let's go and grab our game.odin. We have init game. Have a thing in here that'll take into it game, which is a pointer to game. And an event, which will just be a event. I think it returns anything. My functions are just scattered everywhere at the minute. Okay. Game handle event. Might need to do this to do now. Right. So my game is currently just a struct. Can I say in here I want main menu state to also be a struct? And I want game state to be a struct. Okay. And user can be a state. I'm going to go ahead and say, I can't call it game state because I just used game state. Piss. Oh, I hate fucking come up with names. Game. Can I do it inline? It's basically only ever going to be used here. Oh, maybe you can do it inline. That does work. Let's do that then. Saves me having to come up with more and more nonsense names. And this is a nice thing, 'cause actually if I want stuff that persists, it can live on here, right? Cool. My main menu state. What is there to say? Start button hovered. Start button clicked. And I'll go ahead and say something like initial main menu state. That should just be everything false. God damn it. Main menu state. I know this value is 0 initialized, so I think it will get that by default, but let's just put it in. Game state we'll do in a minute. Init game will return me a game that is on the main menu, and its state will be initial main menu state, like so. Yeah. So that should run without trouble. My button still does silly things. All right, let's go take our other handling off the button. I think I've got in draw. Somewhere in nya, we have a bunch of this, so we want to get rid of this. Draw menu. Do I just pass game down to all of these, basically? Everyone just has access to everything. Draw menu takes in a draw. Menu game. Some rubbish at this. Let's undo that. Game. And button hovered. Actually, rect hovered. No, this is all gone. Right? That is now game dot state dot main menu state. Oh, God damn it, I forgot what I've called it. Start button hovered. That can be used to say, sir, what colour should I be? Then, what's this to do? Refactor out rect. You're actually not used anymore, so let's just delete you. Now, all that handling's gone, and we want to go and change it back. So, back in here. LSP, man, just always seems to get out of sync. Game handle event. What is there to do in here? Game handle event. So, do we want to do a switch on our screen? Switch on game dot screen. Say in here case dot main menu do stuff. Case dot game. We do stuff. Did not like that they're empty. So we'll have you panic because we're not going to have you do anything for a minute. Oh, it's still not happy. So we switch on screen. If we're the main menu, current things we do. Nobody updates hovering. And we're not getting an event for mouse move. Oh, that's annoying. So you might need to have something else that's updating hovering. Okay, let's just go ahead and get the clicking in. So switch on game.screen, case, main menu. What else did I say? Switch on event dot type case keyboard early return case. Is this a syntax issue? You should be doing this like that. User are case.mouse. And what do we say? This is all feeling a little inelegant, isn't it? So in this case here, we just go ahead and redeclare event to be event.data.mouse event. What types are on mouse event? Button. You know what? We probably get rid of button if we're only supporting left clicks. Mouse event. All right, let's go ahead and say if mouse event dot button is left and mouse event dot type press and mouse event dot pause. So in here, overlaps start. We'll need to define. Overlaps the start button. Then game.screen. We should go to game. It's angry because overlaps mouse button doesn't exist yet, so let's bung that in. Overlap start button should be a proc that takes a pause and returns a ball. And we're going to just hard code the numbers for now. What have we got? The numbers we need are in there. Bang that in there. We're going to return not pos.x is less than button pos.x, or pos.x is greater than button pos.x plus button dim.width, or pos y is less than button pos y, or pos y is greater than button pos y plus button dim h. Split them up. Get rid of that. No, it wants it on there. Okay, screw it. Keep that on there. Overlap start button. I think that works. come down here and it says if the mouse button equals why didn't you work? Overlap start button mouse event dot pos is not a type. It's a brackets issue. Bad syntax, got a that. No? Mouse event pos. You end there. I need an if. Mouse event dot button. There we go. My goodness, we're making a meal of this. Why can't I get rid of that? There we go. Forget all of that. I've already done that. Then we get this. So if it's a left mouse button and it's pressed and it overlaps the button, update the screen. Legal instruction. Panic. Nice. Okay. But we do get to show a screen, so that's nice. Can we also quickly come in here and say we'll switch event type and we'll say case it's a keyboard event. If it's a keyboard event, we don't return. We will for now. Case it's a mouse event, which needs to be inside that switch. Then this one will early return because our game has no need for it. And what should we say? Should we have a count that we decrement and then leave? So game state will have a count, which will just be an int. Init game, get you that. Let me make an initial game state, which will be a game state count of 3. So it'll say 3, and if you press escape, we've not programmed in escape. If you press space 3 times, it will go back to the menu. So the initial game count is that. And then inside of here, if it's a keyboard event, we'll go ahead and say key event equal to event data dot keyboard event. And we'll say if key event dot type is a press and key event dot car is equal to space. I think car's probably a bad word for that now. Then what do? Key event dot type is press. That is space. We're gonna say game dot state dot game state dot count minus equals 1. Game dot state as a game state count is less than or equal to 0. Game dot state or game dot screen will be equal to main menu. Game dot state will be equal to the initial main menu state. Why are you unhappy? Needs dereferencing? How do you dereference? No? Cannot assign to game.state.gamestate.count. Game is a pointer. Do game like that. Game like that. I just do that. No, because it needs to know it's a game state. Why can't I assign a value to it? Cannot assign to game.state.count. Okay, so it's not to do with the count, it's to do with the game state, which makes sense. I don't understand it, because this other one was fine. Game.state.gamestate.count minus equals 1. But that one says it's fine. How interesting. Game.state. Can I do game.state is equal to initial game state? So that one I can do. Weird. But I can't reach into that. That feels very surprising. What does this tell me? Cannot assign to this. Odin assign to union field. Allow writing to a field of a type in a union. Suppose you have the following. Foo is a struct, bar int. Bingo maybe foo, format this. Currently you can read bar, but you can't write to it. If the union you're doing this, now would assign 10 to the copy. I actually want to assign 10 to the union value itself. You need to do and bingo, which first gets the pointer to the actual union value and assigns to that instead of to a copy. Old. It is relatively old. Is that Jan 24th or does that mean January 2024? I have no idea. That means if I access one of the fields of the union just to read it, that's a copy on its own too. I assume here it just copies the field itself, which is bar, not the entire union value. And a union just an integer and a bunch of things. What is this here saying? Dot question mark. What is dot question mark? Where are we in here? Or else expressions. So I is an int. Let's force it into being an int or else something. Int. Am I just too stupid for this? Maybe T is a union which returns either a type T or nil. Other languages often seen as these. Odin has multiple return values, so maybe T is used less frequently or rarely in the core library instead of doing this. Transform it like that. Half and okay to like undo these things. Subtype polymorphism. Oh. Is it saying I'd have to take a reference to it somewhere? Something like that. Oh, that is nasty. But it's now not complaining. Right. And we flipped a game which doesn't tell us anything. So let's go back to draw. Go find our draw game screen, which does all the same stuff. Except I think I do want to say in here. What do I want to say in here? Draw string. Oh, what do I want to say? You've not got access to the game yet. You're going to need it. So game is game. I'm going to say string will be a string. We're going to switch on game dot state as a game state. Oh my goodness, that's not what I want. Game state dot count case. In case it's 1, I want it to say 1. Can I do that? Case 2. We set string to 2. Come on, Matt. Don't know what button I pressed to jump there. I'm annoyed about it. Drawable, so we're back in here. Then in here, case 3, string is 3. Default case, string is unexpected. And we're going to say drawString, that thing. Come in here, draw game string back in drawable. Up now takes in a game. Right, so come in here, click U. Invalid type assertion from union, main menu state to game state. Actual was main menu state. Interesting. Very interesting. Where's that live then? Do a handling game event. Game screen on the main menu. Switch an event type if it's a keyboard event. We've got a very indented key event. We grab the keyboard event. Key event type press and space. Hey, I put that in the wrong place. I have put that in the wrong place. So the first thing to say is that shouldn't live there. It should live in there. Let's do that quickly. Right. And this one up. Nya. Early return. There you go. Get a mouse event in here. It should do some stuff. If overlap start button, mouse event pause. We update that to game. If we're in game, we get keyboard events. And this one should send us back to the main menu and reset the main menu state. I don't think you should say game screen equals game. I think you should say game. Oh no, you should. We're flushing them at this point, aren't we? What have we done wrong? Game.state equals initial main menu state. Where's that blow up? in drawable. Switching on state. Game state dot count. How are we getting into draw game screen? So draw game screen. Oops, sorry, wrong button. Where are you called though? Up here. So it should only be getting called when game.screen invalid type assertion from union. Am I not setting when I set the game screen? Am I not setting the other one? Where would it be? So it's this function. Yeah, okay. So game dot state is equal to initial game state 3. And if I press different buttons, it does nothing, but if I hit space, space, space again, we're back to the start. Hey, boy. Well, it's ugly, but it is interactive. Okay. I think we've got a bit of work to do to tidy this into something more useful. But in terms of like an exploration to see how we do input handling, I think that's pretty successful. In terms of turning that into something we can actually make useful, I think we're going to have to do a bit of thinking. There was one more thing I was planning to... sorry, let's go ahead and just grab all that. Commit it as... just exploring user inputs. I'd like to get it doing that hover again, right? We're not currently doing the hover. And our options for that, I think, would either be that we set loads and loads of well, we take the oh my god, what's it called? We set a callback to say every time the cursor position changes, fire an event into our queue that we then flush. But it seems really redundant because we're... Why? Why does it feel redundant? Because it means I'd have a thing that says, I now want to set it to 10, 10, and then the next one says I want to set it to 11, 11, and then to 12, 12. Each of those are going to then take up some CPU time, when actually you get the same effect by just setting it to 12, 12. Our drawing logic can access the mouse position. So it might actually just be simpler. Currently, we're trying to get it from button hovered. It might actually make more sense to say, don't give a fuck about that. Language. I'm trying to be better about not swearing, I'm a toddler. We get rid of that. And then we slightly dirtily just say in here, well, actually, the only point where we care what colour we are is in here. And so we have this do the same kind of if. Would it be cursor pos x less than button pos x, or cursor pos x plus is greater than button pos x plus button dim width, or cursor pos y is less than button pos y, or cursor pos y is greater than button pos y plus button button dim h. What's the matter with you, cursor pos? There you go. So we just shunt that back into our drawing logic. Is that gross? Actually, that hovering isn't game relevant to us. It's just for UI feedback. Am I shifting the position slightly on some way, or is that just like a... That just like an optical illusion? It might be. I don't know. I don't think that's terrible, right? So my whole reason for wanting this kind of like event queue thing is I'm like, I don't want logic around how the game is running to go skew whiff because callback fires midway through us doing all of our logic to update for the last load of inputs, which I think could happen. And like I say, if you've gotten this far and you know GLFW better than I do, and you know that can't happen because they've got mutexes or some sort of like atomic updating happening where they guarantee that won't happen, then do let me know. But I'm not in the mood to sit and read through their source at the minute, and their docs were very much like, yeah, this could totally happen, from what I could tell. So we made it all a bit more controllable on our end. But that's only because game logic cares, right? The stuff like this that's about like showing you stuff to help you make the UI more useful and usable to you. Like, who cares what order it comes in, right? Like, if I'm rendering the frame and you're hovering it, I want it to show and it doesn't depend on any past state. It literally only depends on what's happening right now. We could have a clicked state. But I think we're just going to do dumb, like on key down press, just for simplicity everywhere. And you get your kind of like advanced information from hover states. That doesn't seem too terrible. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll do that for now. Whereabouts does that land us? Let's go ahead and stage that and say, get hover state working again. Hover, get button hover state working again. And like with so much of this, I think I'm writing code that I know is a bit dumb and not very extensible. Like with the Vulkan code, it's because I don't really know where I'm going at this point. And so I think it'd be a waste to sit and think too long, because I think I'll come up with the wrong answers. Whereas this way around, when we inevitably have to rewrite lots of stuff to make it more useful, it didn't take us that long to write. We've not spent too long polishing this turd. So I think that still makes a lot of sense. That might be a good spot to leave it in. So we are flushing this. We've refactored that. Cool. I might leave this short-term plan thing here. We'll populate that next time. So what have we got? Draw a menu with a button in it. When you click the button, we open the game. When you press escape, it reopens the menu. That is done, right? And we're not doing it with escape. But yeah, now we need to work out our next step. I guess we can make the menu style nicer. So, nicer laid out menu. And then we need to write Tetris. Or the Tetris block designer, depending on what we want to do first. My gut feeling is what we do is we write Tetris and we use hard-coded block designs that we're easily able to mess with. That makes sense? Because I think these being not hard-coded probably does affect how we go about writing things. So it's better to get that in early. But I don't think we need to have a whole UI for it. I think we can just have like even just text files that we read in at compile time or something like that. Or even runtime. But yeah, that's one to work out later. I've got a little chunk there. I feel like we've learned a bit there. It's all getting quite fun now with the interaction stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend like it's the most beautiful thing in the world, but like it's becoming an interactive game. That's pretty exciting. I am kind of curious. Like I say, I don't do game dev for a living. You can probably tell watching me do it. But in my programming at work, I work for a web dev company. I guess the kind of lessons we'd learn. So it's we're big on code being self-describing. So things are broken into lots of little functions, but the functions are named in a way that they kind of read through like a sentence. So you can read down like a block of code and not have to worry about the implementation. In theory, it should tell you what it's doing. There's a lot of emphasis placed on avoiding mutable state. So almost everywhere, we would prefer to read a thing in, create a copy, act on the copy, pass out the things that are interesting, and have you then assign them to your thing. I'm not even saying that as like a bad thing, right? I think actually on a team of people all working in kind of like a business environment where there's a pressure to go fast more than a pressure to do perfect. Right, we want working fast, not like performant, if that makes sense. Like that, I think that probably is the right way to go about doing it, but it makes this all feel quite alien. And I suspect it means I'm going to hit a bunch of mutable state pitfalls at some point. So that's something to look forward to. But all a bit of a learning process. And I think this makes sense in terms of like I've watched a bunch of Case and Muratori stuff, not so much recently, but a while back. And his whole point about you can make your programs hugely more performant by just not making the computer do loads of dumb stuff it doesn't need to do. It feels to me a little bit like for our game, what that means is we keep a block of mutable state that we just update when we need to, rather than allocating lots of stuff out each time we need to make a change, if that makes sense. So I'm going to try it, and let's see how it goes. Hopefully it lands us with a playable and performant game. I mean, the game is going to be so graphically simple. If it weren't performant, I'll be embarrassed. But I mean, currently there isn't even a game, so maybe I should already be embarrassed. But next time, I think we're going to get into a bit of nicer layout stuff. We can have a bit of an and an about how detailed we want to make our layout logic. So one thing we could do is we could write like a little flexbox system. I gather, having looked, I think it's called like Clay, the like C layout library. I think I've seen things with that where I think even the author has a couple of YouTube videos where he's explaining that like actually this is a problem that you'll get wrong a few times. And I guess similar to a lot of the Think with the Entity stuff, our game is very static. So I think our layout problems can probably actually just be if else to hell and back and it just work. But we'll see. We can work that out. We'll work out a nicer layout for the menu. And then, yeah, like I said, I think we'll get on to actually writing Tetris. It only took, 25 videos? So. Oh. It's happening, though. We're getting there. Cool. I'm going to call it there, because we've been going for quite a while. Like I said, I'm trying very hard not to overdo my hand. Which is holding up okay. Which I'm taking as a positive sign. I'll sign off for the day, and I'll catch you on the next one.